How do you improve your squat while running heaps? That's today's question. I'm Coach Mike, previous powerlifter and now hybrid athlete and coach. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips and tricks I apply both to myself and my clients that help them improve their squat, particularly improve their leg strength, while also running heaps and improving their fitness. These things sound counterintuitive, it sounds hard, and it is, but I've got the tools that will show you exactly how to do it. As you can imagine, running heaps uses your legs. Squatting, you require your legs. Doing both of those things together is a fucking nightmare sometimes. But it doesn't have to be that way, and I'm going to share some of the things that I apply to get you the best results possible. Let's not talk anymore. Let's dive in. So if you want to improve your squat while running as much as you can, there is a very obvious thing that you need to do in your training. And one of those is having some kind of smart weekly programming structure. And if you've watched my previous videos or any of my content online, you know I have raved on about this countless times, that having some kind of structure to your training week is always going to benefit you a lot, because you can't just go in the gym or go for a run and do whatever you want on any given day. If you want to be a beginner to intermediate all the time, that's great. But if you really want to push your training and take everything to the next level, having some structure to your training is going to benefit you, particularly if you're not 100% sure how to progress. Having some structure to your training week helps. And what does that structure look like if you want to run and improve your squat? If you are specifically trying to improve your squat, I highly recommend you map out what days you want to squat in your training week first. So if I want to squat twice a week, I might want to squat on a Monday and a Thursday. If I want to do those two things, if I want to squat on the Monday and a Thursday, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have my long run on a Sunday or have a really hard training session on a Wednesday, so that way my legs are tired by the time I get to my squat. If you want to improve your squat, you need your legs to be fresh and somewhat recovered in order to be able to do more weight than you did last week. We are trying to get stronger, remember, which means we do want to increase the weight each week, which means our legs need to feel somewhat good for us to be able to do that. If they feel like shit all the time, if they always feel fatigued, tired, or just not at the best they can be, you're just making it harder for yourself. It doesn't mean you won't be able to progress, because you will, inevitably with hybrid training, and we've said this before, your legs are always going to be somewhat tired and fatigued, but there are some little manipulations you can make to your training week just to make sure that you don't fuck yourself over. One of those being, don't have a really hard run the day before you want to do your heavy squats. If I want to squat heavy on a Monday, why in the fuck am I going to go and push a really hard running session on the Sunday? In theory, I should do that hard running session on the Saturday, give myself a day to recover, and hit that hard squat session on the Monday. And the same would apply if it was like the other way around, that I really wanted to improve my speed or my running performance. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to smash legs on the Monday and then expect to back it up on a Tuesday with a hard running session, because your legs are going to carry some fatigue, they're going to feel like lead. There's no way you're going to be able to push that run. So the same rules apply here. If you want to be improving your squat regularly and continuously going up in weight, improving your performance, just make sure that is a priority. So plan out what days you want to squat, plan out what days you're going to do your hardest runs of the week, and just make sure they're either as far away from each other as they can be, meaning maybe you're squatting on a Monday and doing a really hard run on a Thursday, so there's an ample gap between the two and you have plenty of time to recover in between. Or, which is another strategy that some people use, I actually do this myself, is I will squat on the same day that I do a hard run. Because my legs aren't sore yet, they might be a little bit tired, but after I've eaten a couple times in between, rested a couple hours, I'll actually do my hard squats in the morning, and then later that night I'll go for a hard run. My legs aren't sore yet, so it gives me a few hours or a window of a few hours in order to replenish, recover, and then go again. My legs actually feel really good that day, and a lot of people do that as well. A lot of hybrids will double up their training sessions in the same day. So hard squat session in the morning and then a hard run at night. And you can also do it the other way around as well, where you have a hard run first and then a hard squat session later. However, if you do want to get stronger at squatting specifically, and that is a priority to you right now, make sure you squat first. So make sure you plan out what days you're going to squat and when you're going to squat first, and then have your running mapped out around that. So you can have it in the same day, but you want to have your squat session first, or you want to have them as far away from each other as you can, just so you can limit the amount of fatigue that you've accumulated. I'm not going to harp on about it much more, but if you have questions about how you should structure a training week, please just DM me and ask me, or comment below, and I'll gladly give you some advice as to what you could do to your training week to make sure you're not fucking yourself over. So I know I've mentioned before about having some structure to your training week and how that can just make your life a lot easier. I just want to say that it isn't essential for everyone to have a super stringent structure to their training week. The reason why I mention it though is because it can just make your life a little bit easier. But your body is not fragile, okay? If you had that hard run the day before and then you wanted to squat the next day, you definitely can do that. And I'm sure you will be able to make progress doing it that way. Your body will adapt eventually to training in such a way. But if you want to just focus on getting your squat as strong as possible, I'm just providing you the quickest and most efficient way to get there from my experience. So there's 1,000 ways you can skin a cat, but what I'm giving you today is the easiest and most straightforward ways to do that from what I've experienced myself and what I apply to my clients right now. I'm literally giving you the exact methods and techniques that I use, but there will be plenty of other people that have other ways of doing it, and they may work for you as well. So please don't hate me for the way I'm structuring things. This is just an option for you to apply to your training if you wanted to do so. Okay, squat frequency. If you want to improve your squat, it might be a good idea to squat more often, but because we're running so much, you can't just go and squat every day of the week. You're not going to be able to handle it. Your legs are going to be fucked unless you're blasting trend, like some of you may be who are watching this, which I doubt, but if you are, that's hilarious. You probably want to squat a little bit more frequently than once a week if that's what you're doing right now. So if you're doing it once, why not try it twice? If you're doing it twice, maybe you want to figure out a way to increase the volume and maybe get a third leg session or squat session in. You probably wouldn't be squatting more than 3 times a week if you're properly training hybrid, only because the amount of fatigue your legs will accumulate will hinder your runs and or will actually hinder your squat progress. But the sweet spot is probably somewhere between 1 to 3 times. I don't know anyone that squats 4 times a week unless they're a CrossFitter and they're doing like other kind of WODs and stuff like that. But those people aren't training purely for strength when it comes to improving their squat. They're training a variety of qualities at the same time. I'm talking in the context of purely strength focused, which would mean you're probably only going to be squatting 1 to 3 times. I generally, and very rarely will I ever go over twice, both for myself and anyone I work with. I found twice to be more than enough if you've got the intensity right. So in saying that, again, having some structure to the training week is going to help, especially if you want to squat twice a week. So if you want to squat on the Monday and Thursday, you got to base your runs around that and figure out what works best for you. When are you going to do those harder runs? When are you going to do those easier runs? Make sure everything kind of optimizes your recovery for those squat sessions whenever they're going to come up. So improving your squat frequency is excellent because it gives you more chance to practice. It allows you to train at a variety of intensities and rep ranges. Maybe you want to do, your heavy squats on a Monday where you go below 5 reps, and maybe you want to do some higher rep squat work on the Thursday, which helps you build a little bit more volume. So you've got options and a little bit more flexibility if you're squatting twice a week. For me right now, myself, I'm squatting once a week and I'm only doing lower body once a week, and that's because I'm running a lot in preparation for a half marathon. And I've accepted that squatting isn't my 100% priority right now, as getting faster for this race is. But if I were trying to squat heavier particularly, I would definitely be squatting twice a week. And I would probably be doing some kind of heavier session and some kind of lighter session later in the week, where I may also include some variations, which I'll go into in a second. Squatting more frequently is going to allow you to practice the movement, practice the technique, obviously train the skill and get stronger at it, develop motor units and neurons and all that kind of sciencey shit faster than doing it once will. However, this will also be dependent on your experience and skill level. If you're a beginner, once a week is probably enough. This is more for those that are leaning more towards that intermediate to advanced stages of squatting per se. I've touched on squat frequency and briefly just on the intensity side of things, but I want to go a little bit more into intensity now. Intensity basically refers to the percentage of your 1 rep max that you're going to be squatting. So if your 1 rep max is 100 kilos on the squat, maybe you want to be squatting, 80, 90% of that one day and maybe 60, 70% another day. That's just an option. It doesn't have to be that way. But long story short, intensity is proximity to your 1 rep max, and also how difficult it is on that day. You can do a squat that is 60% of your 1RM. So if my 1RM is 100 kilos and I'm squatting 60 kilos, but if I bang that out for 5 reps, probably feels like fucking nothing. But if I bang it out for 20 to 30 reps, I'm probably dying, and it's really intense, right? So in the context of hybrid training, what I have found to be will work quite well is if I'm doing it once a week, I can just have one hard session, and in that hard session, I can have a variety of rep ranges. I might work up to something like a heavy single where I do 1 rep, and yes, I will have some kind of example on the screen right here. I will have work up to something like a heavy single, and then back downs. I might do a set of 2, a set of 3, a set of 4, a set of 5. That just gives you a lot of variety in terms of rep ranges and intensities that you can play around with if you're doing it once a week. If I'm squatting twice a week, again, I'll have another example maybe over on this side of the screen now, where I can do like a heavy day on a Monday where I'm doing anywhere between 2 to 4 reps, hypothetically. This is just an example. And then maybe in that later session during the week, I can do a bit more high reps where I might do, anywhere between 5 and 8. If my goal is strength, and this is my personal preference, not for everyone, I normally don't prescribe much higher than 8 reps for compound lifts like squat, bench, and deadlift. That is because if the goal is strength, keep in mind strength is a skill, you need to practice lifting heavier more frequently, and lifting higher percentages of your 1RM is way different to lifting it for 8 to 10 reps. The differences are extremely different in terms of motor unit recruitment, sometimes your technique. There's a whole bunch of things, both your mental preparedness, all that kind of stuff comes into play where, if you're always lifting 10 reps and then you try to max out, you're going to find it a lot harder than if you were lifting, 5 to 3 reps more frequently and then tried to max out. So you want to be somewhat close to the skill you're trying to train, and you probably want to train close to the rep range that you're trying to get better at. So for example's sake, we're trying to improve our 1RM today, which means we probably want to keep our training for the most part in that lower rep ranges. With another session potentially in the higher rep ranges, but a little bit easier, more focused on just improving technique, practicing the skill, potentially getting a little bit more volume in. But the main strength day is going to be that day that is closer to the rep ranges or the rep range that we're trying to improve, which in this case is our 1RM. I like to start high, and again, I'll have another fucking diagram somewhere, probably on this side again, where I'll start maybe up at 8 reps, and as the weeks progress, I'll work my way down. 7 reps, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's an option for you. The way you could do it is just keep the reps always between, 5 and 2, and kind of just work between there over consecutive weeks. Maybe doing 5 reps for as long as you can. As long as you're getting stronger, keep doing that. And then once that slows down, change to 4 reps. Do the same thing. Once that slows down, change to 3. Doesn't need to be that complicated. The key is that you're just kind of finding a way to continuously progress or add weight. And if that stalls, change the rep ranges. Just keep in mind that the rep ranges shouldn't be too far away from what it is you're trying to get better at, which is normally improving your 1RM or something of that sort. So we've spoken about frequency. We've spoken about the intensity that you can use. Now I want to touch on some variations. Squat variations or variations of the squat pattern, or even legs, just training them in general, can be very useful at improving your squat. In an ideal world, you'll be able to squat all the time, and only doing squats all the time will help your squat get better. But a couple things will happen if I only squat all the time. Yes, my technique will improve. Yes, I will definitely get better. Yes, I might be able to keep a level of strength for a period of time, but you need to look at whatever stimulus you're providing. It may have a little bit of an expiry date. And this is just a simplified way of describing what I'm trying to say here. So if I'm squatting 3 sets of 5, it works for a few weeks, might work for a couple months even, who knows. Eventually that is not going to work anymore. My body has adapted to that, and it needs a different stimulus in order to improve. So if I am only doing normal squats all the time, could be 6 months, could be a year, who knows? The level of improvement you're going to get out of doing that exact same exercise all the time is going to gradually decrease because your body is getting used to it. Science, all that kind of stuff is adapting, which is actually a good thing, but in our case, it means that our progress is going to slow. So this is where things like variations can come in handy. Some of my favorite variations, and you would program these very similarly to how you would all of the other stuff that I've just talked about. Pause squats, excellent if you struggle maintaining form, tightness, developing power out of the bottom of the squat called the hole. Excellent variation, probably my favorite. Pause exercises are always fucking 10 out of 10 in my eyes. Tempo, next up. Again, these are just going really slow on the way down and coming up fast, or you could do slow on the way down, slow on the way up. Again, excellent at practicing just staying over the middle of your foot, learning how to squat better, feeling what good and bad positions feel like for you. Then you could look at, completely other exercises like Bulgarian split squats, focusing on unilateral work, which is always excellent if you're a runner, because we run one leg at a time. Although both are working, one leg is pushing off the floor while the other one is flying through the air. Doing some kind of single leg work is also going to benefit you both in your running performance and your lifting performance, particularly variations like Bulgarian split squats, like I've mentioned, which are fucking destroyers. Lunges, always excellent. Single leg press, always excellent. And then even if we want to look at other things like, you got your hack squats and stuff like that, which are always good. So variations of the squat or squat pattern will always benefit you. However, you just want to always make sure you're still practicing the skill that we're trying to get better at, which is squatting. So don't just take out your normal barbell squats one day and only do leg press. You're going to come back to barbell squats and you'll shit yourself. You still have to do some kind of barbell squatting and add the leg press in somewhere else, maybe on that second day that you do lower body. Alternatively, if you're always doing pause squats, that's fine. It's still the same movement. We're just doing it for longer periods of time and pausing at one point. So I could swap my normal barbell squat day on a Monday for those pin or pause or tempo squats, no problem, because it's still technically the same exercise. We're just putting some variety in terms of how we're doing it, but it's still the same exercise. Like I said, I just wouldn't completely substitute out barbell squatting for like lunges and then expect my barbell squat to be stronger when I come back to it. It is a skill. Squatting is a skill. Compound lifts, getting stronger is a skill. You still need to be training the skill that you're trying to get better at. You just need to sometimes make little manipulations or add little things, get some variety, some more complexity in your program in order to elicit a stimulus that is going to further or cause an adaptation that you're continuously progressing from. Like I said before, sometimes that adaptation or stimulus that you're providing, its ability to progress will get smaller and smaller. You will find it just loses its spark, basically. So chuck variations in every now and then. If you find your progress stalling, keep in mind you still got to do the main thing, which is squatting. So this next one is a little bit different. Because we're squatting and running so much, you need to take care of both the tendons, muscles, ligaments, and everything else, not just that the squat does, but the joints, everything around it as well. If you want to continuously progress, you also need to keep in mind that injuries and niggles may pop up. You're probably never going to completely avoid them. And anyone who tells you that you can be completely bulletproof and injury-free is bullshit and probably has never worked hard. So I think that is complete bullshit. You just need to manage these things when they pop up. Anyone who is performing at a high level and pushing their body to its limits, you are inevitably going to have niggles pop up. It just comes with the trade. And frankly, if you never have niggles or things pop up now and then, you're probably just not working hard enough, which is a controversial opinion. But the point I'm trying to make here is you do need to just spend time managing things as they pop up. For me personally, I pay close attention to my hip flexors, my calves, and my tibs. So my calves, the back of my lower leg, and my tib ant in particular, the front of my leg or my shin. I just find showing those three areas a little bit of love both makes my squat a little bit better, helps me manage and stay on top of my ankle range of motion just because my ankles get a little bit tight from running. And obviously I need them to be mobile for me to both run and squat. So I just add some exercises in there that help me improve at those things and just keep them, oiled. For me, it's like WD-40, just keep the machine running smoothly. So having some exercises like that can also be useful. That's for me though, that's what I use. I have some clients I work with whose knees just struggle and that's okay. Like having bad knees is so fucking normal. So what do? I have them do some isometric exercises like wall sits, maybe as part of their warm up or before they go for a run. Maybe they'll do some eccentric exercises that emphasize the lengthening portion of a movement. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. Obviously, this is a case-by-case basis, and I'm just giving examples here. I don't want you guys to think you need to be doing all of these things because you may not need them. But if you're trying to push your squat hard and you're trying to push your running hard, you also need to manage everything else around it to ensure you can continue to do those things. Because ultimately, if you get injured, it's a setback. It's time away from training that is progressing you because you now need to manage that injury. So we want to try to do our best to avoid that as best we can and keep us training hard. Doing little things like this a couple times a week can just keep you pushing and allow you to continue to work at the capacity that you need to in order to improve. Because we're trying to get stronger, you can get easily very fixated on trying to add weight to the bar each week. However, sometimes it's just not going to happen, and that's okay. You're not always going to be able to add weight to the bar each week. Sometimes your legs are going to feel worse than others. Sometimes you're going to need to actually go lighter. So auto-regulate your training. What that basically means is sometimes you just need to play it by feel. If you're feeling good, push it a little bit harder. If you're not feeling good, pull back. Don't get so fixated on always having to do more because you might just be shooting yourself in the foot in terms of your long-term progress. If I feel really bad today, I feel super fatigued, and I try to have a really hard squat session, I am now extending the time frame that I'm fatigued. Whereas if I just had an easier session, it means I can then recover quicker and then go hard again. Whereas if I went hard, I've now fucked up potentially next week too. So auto-regulate your training. When you feel good, feel free to push it. When you feel shit, feel free to take it easy. You're running at the same time. You just got to play it by ear and play it by feel sometimes. That's going to take some practice, but it's definitely a strategy that will still work, and it's not the end of the world if things don't always go to plan. All right, hybrids, that's a wrap on another video on how you can improve your squat while running heaps. Things I briefly went over, I'll just touch on again. Having some kind of structure to your training week that optimizes your squat or strength training goals. Maybe improving the frequency, training at a variety of rep ranges and intensities, having some variation and having some other variations of the squat pattern or other accessory exercises that can help you improve your squat will also help. And then also just managing the little niggles and things that come up with this type of training. Hybrid training is inevitably hard. Inevitably, you're pushing your body to parts unknown, so injuries and stuff will pop up. Manage them as they come up because they will set you back long term. Just do your best to stay on top of them. Those are the tips and strategies that I apply to myself and my clients. As always, I have online coaching spots available to anyone, anywhere in the world. All you need to do is subscribe to this fucking channel. And if you have questions or you need anything, comment below, DM me, do whatever. I'm here to help. Just make sure you subscribe. And as always, if you need coaching, just contact me, reach out, and I will do the rest. Thank you, hybrids. Good luck with your training. And I hope you guys have heavy ass squats. I'll see you soon.